I give an expression of care every day to each child to help him realize that he is unique. I end the program by saying, you've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are. And I feel that if we in public television can only make it clear that feelings are mentionable and manageable, we will have done a great service for mental health.
All right, so now we are in Mr. Rogers' real neighborhood, the neighborhood he grew up in Latrobe. And that is the house right there. It is obviously private property. I'm not gonna go much closer, but it's definitely a big house. I don't really know what's changed over the years, like if there's been add-ons or not, but it definitely looks like a mansion. Just about. But yes, this was where Mr. Fred McFeely Rogers was raised. All right, so here is this park, and there's a statue over there and the historical marker. But first I want to show you, be a caring neighbor, spin around the kindness wheel. Okay, well, I don't see a thing to spin it with, but wave to a neighbor, give yourself a hug, share a smile, use kind words, make a new friend, sing a song. Oh, they want you to stand here and spin. Okay. I think I'll just give myself a hug later. How's that? All right, here is the marker. This was erected here in 2016, about 13 years after Mr. Rogers' passing. Fred McFeely Rogers lived from 1928 to 2003. Born and raised in Latrobe, Mr. Rogers was the creator, composer, host, and puppeteer of the award-winning TV program Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood from 1968 to 2001. The program, produced at WKED in Pittsburgh, emphasized kindness, compassion, and learning. An ordained minister, Fred Rogers received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his outstanding approach to children's media and his legacy of nurturing and inspiring generations of children. See if there's anything on the back here. Nope. But yeah, I mean, there's lots more to it. And then we're gonna head our way to the statue. And hopefully the bench is not too wet. You are special, baby. And then that's the neighborhood trolley, if you remember the ding, 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 ding. So how did Fred Rogers get into television? Well, like it says in the marker, he started at WKED in Pittsburgh, and I do hope to visit that place. It still exists and it's still in operation. But he got a job there in 1953, and he began writing and producing a show called The Children's Corner, which it had like a lot of puppets who would later show up on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And then that show went off the air in 1961. And then later on, just right after that, Fred went ahead and earned his master's degree in divinity and became a Presbyterian minister. But he didn't really preach anything regularly. He was often a fill-in when needed at the Presbyterian Church in Pittsburgh. But he considered his work in television to be his own form of ministry. And he thought bringing lessons of love and forgiveness to homes across the country was his calling. And then it was 1968, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was on the air. And another thing I would suggest was he didn't like a lot of the comedy, and I mean, there really wasn't so much violence back in the 1960s and 50s on the air, but the fact that people were insulting each other and throwing pies at each other, he wanted something that was very kid-friendly. And of course, that he did. So in addition to the statue, and there's also his gravesite, which we'll be visiting, and there's also the Fred Rogers Center just outside of the town center on the campus of St. Vincent College. But there's also a museum in there, and the purpose of it was to promote Rogers' early learning goals, and it's a free museum, but I'm not going to go in there today. But it pretty much tells a story about how he became a beloved television icon. So a little background on the Rogers family. Now, apparently they were very wealthy. I mean, you'll see the house, and definitely, yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about. And they were one of the first people here in this town of Latrobe to buy a television set, and of course people were either jealous or envious. And obviously Fred Rogers turned to TV, you know, as entertainment and his getaway, I guess. But Fred Rogers was the biological child of James and Nancy McFeely Rogers. They also adopted a daughter named Nancy, who's also named Laney. Now, James, the father, was a wealthy brick manufacturer, and Fred led something of a pampered childhood because of the family's wealth, and also he had health issues. Mr. Rogers went by the name Fat Freddy. Of course, that was quite an insult by his classmates because he suffered from severe allergies and asthma. And he was taken to school while other kids either walked or took the bus, and that kind of turned off a lot of kids and parents, I imagine. But as he got older, like through high school and even through college, I mean, his kindness and everything and loyalty to people, you know, like forgiving and all that, you know, doing the right thing, I guess, not just holding a grudge or being mad. I mean, that won him acceptance among his peers. All right, now here I am at Unity Cemetery just outside town of Latrobe. It's a very, very huge cemetery. The cemetery even dates back to the 1780s. Yeah, I kid you not. But people are still buried here. In fact, there was a funeral procession going on the other side of the cemetery. But for those who have watched my videos, I usually like to give a well-rounded perspective of their lives when I visit a grave site. And I mean, Mr. Rogers did have a very squeaky clean image, and unfortunately that made him the butt of many jokes. Like, I remember when Howard Stern accused him of making too many I don't want to say sexualized remarks on his show, like kind of, yeah, those can't think of the right word. But and also there was the rumor about him that he went to Vietnam and killed many people. Well, that is not true, definitely. Somebody told me that one time, and it was even on Snopes.com, I think it was. But again, it is true that he was an ordained minister. But now today, people want him back. And rightfully so. I mean, and his message is still preserved today because he is still found in a lot of memes. Spread kindness and joy. And for some people, like Gen X and millennials, those who didn't have cable TV, he was one of the first memories we watched on TV, aside from Sesame Street and Captain Kangaroo and many others. And yes, I did watch his show. Now, he passed away after a battle of cancer. He fell into a coma in 2006. And his death made pretty much the front page of every newspaper in the country. Oh, look, even a nice view. Wow. It makes sense for him to be placed on top of a hill. And I do remember watching the nighttime Emmys. I think it was a daytime Emmy. He received the Lifetime Achievement Award in 1999. And again, he also got the Presidential Medal of Freedom from George W. Bush in 2003. But I remember his speech was very touching when he accepted his Lifetime Achievement Emmy. He said, I mean, I don't remember what he did, but like I remember he paused in the middle of his speech and said, I want you guys to think about your loved ones, whether they're in heaven or whether there with you. Take a moment, think about the good things in life. Or I don't remember what it was, but I remember he paused for a minute and he even looked at his watch. But that was very touching. And I'm glad the producers let him do that, because a lot of producers of those shows don't let people do that often. But here is where he is buried, and I know it's kind of misleading because it says given on there. And people have left stuff over here over the years, like this one. Thank you for everything, love always. There's even a drawing on there. And I'm just gonna take a peek, I'm not gonna go in. But yeah, Fred McFeely Rogers is buried to the left. First one on the left on the bottom. And then over here on the bottom is his wife, Sarah Joanne Bird Rogers, who passed away in 3 years ago in 2021. I hope they both rest in peace. And I know, and I'm sure Mr. Rogers knows in spirit that his message has lived on. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Historically Marked, a Fred Rogers themed episode. And yeah, I'm just right in front of his final resting place. I guess I should have worn a sweater of his, but I don't think I own any. But that would have been more suitable, I guess, for this episode. But instead I'm wearing a hoodie because it's kind of cold and it just rained here in Pennsylvania, and now the sun's out. But I am Jason. Remember to always be kind and love one another. Among many of Mr. Rogers' many messages in life, you are special. I am Jason, signing off.